Hey everybody, thanks for joining us this week for Conversations with Christians Engaged. I'm Bunny Pounds, I'm the president and founder, and we're revisiting some of our messages from last year's national conference. Do you know we have a conference in Dallas-Fort Worth every year? And this year, we're doing a special thing, which is we're re-recording our On-Ramp to Civic Engagement seminar, our signature class, in front of an audience, and we'd love to have you. Today, we're highlighting a message from our National Advisory Board member, former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler from Missouri. Now, Vicky will also be with us at this Dallas-Fort Worth event, and she will be a star of our new curriculum coming out this next year. Vicky was ran for the state house there in Missouri, and then became a member of Congress, serving from the state of Missouri in the U.S. Capitol. You know what I love about Vicky? She is full of conviction. She was a part of the Values Caucus, leading that in the U.S. Capitol, and is part of an international commission right now, commissioned by the White House to protect religious persecution and keep that at bay around the world. You know, what she talks about in this message is so important. We have to be generation keepers. We have to raise up the next generation. We have to prioritize our young people, our children's ministry, our youth programs, Gen Z. That's what we're doing here at Christians Engaged with our 1630 project, is raising up the next generation. And she shares about how she was inspired to run for office, how she was inspired to be a leader, and how she wants to inspire the next generation to actively share the gospel, number one, but also to understand that we have to be leaders in our community day in and day out. You're going to be blessed by this message by Vicky Hartzler, and I hope you're encouraged after listening to it to come join us live in Dallas-Fort Worth, August 8 and 9 for our On-Ramp to Civic Engagement and our national conference in Dallas-Fort Worth at Create Church. We'll see you there. Here at Christians Engaged, we are on a quest to see every American Christian take stewardship of their life, their nation, and this generation. Can you imagine a world where every Christian in this country did three simple things? Pray, vote, and engage. And what if we did those ongoing? It would totally shift our nation. That's what we're doing here at Christians Engaged. Over the last 5 years, we've built a standing army of Christians that are saying, I want to pray, vote, and engage ongoing and be leaders in my community. We're just getting started, folks. Here at Conversations with Christians Engaged, join us every week as we take you in depth in interviews with government officials, ministry leaders, subject leader experts to awaken and empower you to do those three things ongoing. I'm Bunny Pounds. I'm the president and founder of Christians Engaged. I spent 16 years in political consulting working for members of Congress and other candidates before starting this ministry. And my co-host, Ben Quine, our biblical worldview expert and our vice president. Come on a journey with us every week. We're here to help you pray, vote, and engage.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Wow, what a great day. I am so excited to be here with Bunny and Christians Engaged and all of you at this critical time in our nation's history. For such a time as this, God is raising us up, and I'm excited that what God's going to do not only today, but this fall and this year for our nation. And, we are more than just prayer warriors, which we are, and we're believers in Christ. We are Christian soldiers, but, we are generation keepers. And that's what I felt led to talk about today, because it's up to us to protect our children and to preserve the freedoms and the godly heritage that we've been blessed with for future generations. And I'm excited about that. I was a teacher for many years. My husband and I have a 25-year-old daughter. I taught VBS this summer in our church. And children are just precious. They really are. They're honest. They're innocent. And they say the cutest things. I was visiting with and called an older friend from church the other day, and she said, I heard some noise in the background. And she said, I'm watching my great-grandchildren today. And I said, oh, that's great. She said, yeah. She goes, I just left the room for a few minutes a while ago, and I came back in the room, and my littlest grandchild said, we're leaving now because our teacher isn't doing a very good job. And guess who was the teacher? The grandma. Great-grandma. So they basically fired grandma, great-grandma. And I told her, I said, well, maybe more of Americans' children should be saying that to their teacher. They'd be better off. I was a public school teacher, and there's some great teachers out there, but there's a lot of them that just need to be fired, right? Because education is turning more into indoctrination in too many places, and so many of our kiddos are being indoctrinated. There's a famous saying that Abraham Lincoln gave that has always stuck with me. It says, the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation, and we're talking about generations today, will be the philosophy of government in the next. That was true in the 1860s when he said that, and it's true today, and we're seeing that playing out. What is being taught in the classroom is now coming out in the form of government. And the sober truth is that they're coming after our kids. Whether it's government policies, corporations, business, entertainment, they're being bombarded. And it's up to us to stand up and to stop it. And that's what we can do and should do. I gathered just a few examples that I wanted to just run down. I know we know this, but just to put together how they are coming after our kids and what our children are facing. I used to be, like I said, a high school teacher, a track coach, and so this one is especially bothered me, how the Biden administration is trying to change Title IX to take the supposed to be anti-discrimination against women, and they're using it to bludgeon women by forcing biological males who identify women to be allowed in their classrooms, in their bathrooms, in their locker rooms, and in their sports. And women are getting beat in sports, their medals are getting taken away, and they're getting beaten up, as we've even seen in the Olympics. I mean, this is absolutely ludicrous. But just as ludicrous is the idea that you can tell a child that they can be whatever sex they want. I mean, that is awful. And then on top of that, to encourage them to have permanent changes to their body and surgeries when they're confused. And liberals say that this is compassionate. Well, I say it's not compassionate. It is child abuse. And it needs to stop. And then there's Planned Parenthood. I saw the statistics the other day. They are our largest provider in schools across America of teaching sex education. 1.2 million of our children being subjected to Planned Parenthood's tutelage, which covers topics like prostitution, gender identity, LGBTQ skills, and how to get an abortion without parental consent or notification. Then there's the federal government, I read the other day, which is promoting a new form of mental health care for our kids in school, and that involves, yes, meditation, yoga, and mindfulness techniques based on Buddhism and Hinduism. I say if they want kids to stop having mental health, they shouldn't have kept them out of school for 2 years during COVID. They should quit telling them that they can change their gender identities. They should tell them that Jesus loves them and has a plan and purpose for their life. That's the answer to mental health problems with our kids. But corporations are now bombarding our kids. I used to look forward to the Scholastic Book Fair. You remember that? You go in and you get to pick things like Clifford the Big Red Dog and all those good books. But now they've changed their policy, and schools cannot opt out of also our kids being subjected to books like Gay Club, The Witch Boy, Rainbow Revolutionaries, and My Moms Love Me. Disney Pixar produced a film a couple years ago, Buzz Lightyear. I was excited about it. How many of you like Toy Story? I mean, wasn't that one of the best movies, you know? It was good. So, oh good, they're making a Buzz Lightyear. Only they had to put in there a lesbian character who is married, who kisses her wife, and who raises kids. And not to be outdone, Nickelodeon's Paw Patrol, which is such a popular, cute cartoon, they now have introduced a non-binary character that wears rainbow-colored clothes. Is it any wonder our kids are confused? Is it any wonder that they're depressed and distressed and suicide rates are an all-time high? We're in a battle. But we're the generation keepers that can turn this around, that we are being called today to stand up for our kids and to protect them. And now is the time to reach them. God has made them so their hearts are tender towards Him, and He has a plan and purpose for them, and they need to know that He is the truth and the way and the life, not Washington's version of truth, not Hollywood's version of truth, and not the school's version of truth. Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me." You know, that was true 2,000 years ago, and it is still true today, where Jesus is saying, "Come to me, I have a plan and a purpose for your life." It's not a coincidence that according to a survey from the National Association of Evangelicals, 63% of individuals become a Christian between the ages of 4 and 14, and an additional 34% become a Christian between the ages of 15 and 29. So altogether, that's 97% of individuals come to know the Lord before age 30. Just curious, how many of you came to know the Lord before age 30? Yeah, that's what I thought. And governments who don't honor God know this as well. They know how tender they are. And they have sought to mold children not according to God's words, but according to their own devices for evil purposes. Back around World War II, there was something called Hitler Youth. And it's an evil initiative. It was designed to indoctrinate children to Hitler's ideology. Every non-Jewish boy was required to be part of Hitler Youth. And by the end of 1933, there were more than 2 million German youth engaged in this mandatory program, grooming them to be obedient, fanatical soldiers with allegiance to Nazi cause. Now, the History Channel's documentary on this program outlines an underlying subversive goal of the program. And listen to this. See if it sounds familiar. Remember, there's nothing new under the sun, right? It says, for the Nazis, the group had other benefits. Not only did it allow the Third Reich to indoctrinate children at their most impressionable, but it let the Nazis remove them from the influence of their parents, some of whom opposed the regime. The Nazi Party knew that families, private, cohesive groups, not usually under political sway, were an obstacle to their goals. The Hitler Youth was a way to get Hitler's ideology into the family unit. And some members of the Hitler Youth even denounced their parents when they behaved in ways not approved of by the Reich. Yeah, but the Nazis are not alone. China today has a similar program which indoctrinates their youth in the ways of the Chinese Communist Party, and it's called the Young Pioneers. This is a school-based program for Chinese youth, ages 6 to 14, where they learn socialism and communism. And as of almost a couple of years ago, there was about 115 million young pioneers nationwide. According to the website, it says, among other things, the purpose of Young Pioneers is to unite and educate children, listen to and follow the party, love the motherland, love socialism, learn and practice the core values of socialism, grow up to be a pioneer determined to contribute to the construction of a socialist modernist country, and grow into a successor to the cause of communism. And most chilling, attendees of all of the Communist Chinese Party youth-affiliated groups must pledge commitment to atheism. So while China builds up a generation, China is building up a generation of little communist atheists, they forbid teaching about Jesus. This makes me mad. It is constitutionally prohibited for children under 18 to attend church or receive any religious education, including Sunday school, Christian schools, religious summer camps, or other forms of religious youth groups. They even post signs near churches, a few blocks from the church, warning that children cannot pass that point. And there are video cameras posted on the churches to monitor compliance. I mean, if that isn't evil, I don't know what is. But you believe that an indoctrination program couldn't happen here in America? Well, we've already talked about some of the school programs, but let me introduce you to a new initiative. You may not have heard about this, just as new. The American Climate Corps. Yeah, I fought this. I was in Congress at the time. It's a Green New Deal program passed in the falsely named Inflation Reduction Act, which I voted against, just saying. I just want to put that out there. Yeah, right. While the goals of this Corps aren't as insidious as China's aims, it's still concerning. So according to the White House fact sheet, so I went to the White House fact sheet, and here's what it says. The American Climate Corps plans to mobilize a new, diverse generation of more than 20,000 Americans, putting them to work conserving and restoring our lands and water, bolstering community resilience, deploying clean energy, implementing energy-efficient technologies, and advancing environmental justice. All of this on our dime. Aren't you glad you pay taxes so the government can do this and indoctrinate more kids into the false religion of climate change? Yeah, but that's going on. So all of this points to the reality is that they're coming after our kids, right? So what can we do as America's generation keepers to help protect our kids and preserve our godly heritage? And so I'd like to share with you 7 things. First of all, we need to make seeking the young a priority in our lives, in our churches, in our communities. This should be our number 1 priority. You know, I was reading Zechariah 11:16 the other day, and I'm like, wow. It's a prophecy about Israel that God says, I'm going to send you a bad shepherd who isn't going to do these things, but it's a punishment thing. But I said, wow, these are really the 4 traits of a good shepherd. I know that Pastor Cruz last night talked about the shepherds and our pastors. So these are the 4 things that Zechariah says a good pastor, in other words, a good church should be doing. 1, they should care for the lost. Makes sense, right? 2, seek the young. 3, heal the injured. We have a lot of church programs, and that's needed, right? And 4, feed the healthy. You know, give those good sermons on Sunday, you know, to the sheep that are healthy. But I was struck by the number 2 priority that God lays out for a good pastor at a good church is to seek the young. Jesus said, let the little children come to me. He is telling us we need to be about this. So my question is, what percentage of our church budgets are for children's ministry? Yeah. You know, what are we doing personally to invest in reaching kids? You know, and we should be praying for revival, but one way we can do it is to minister to and introduce a child to the Lord, right? So how should we do it as generation keepers? Well, we follow the guidelines of the Psalms. Here's just 3 Psalms I want to read real quickly. What do we do? What do we say to these kids? It says Psalm 78:4 says, we will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power, and the wonders he has done. We just share with them what God's done in our life. Yeah, when I was your age and I went to school, you know, I had a hard time studying for tests too, but I would just pray and God gave me a peace. And, you know, I got a B on that test, you know, and you know, just little things like that. You're putting into them, you're telling them about his power, praiseworthy deeds, things he's done. Psalm 145:4-7 says, one generation will commend your works to another. They will tell of your mighty acts. They will speak of the glorious splendor of your majesty. Wow, look at that sunrise, Sam. I mean, it is glorious. God is going to give us a great day, right? They will tell the power of your awesome works. They will celebrate your abundant goodness. And this is a great prayer. Psalm 71:18 says, even when I am old and gray, do not forsake me, O God, till I declare your power to the next generation, your might to all who are to come. That should be our prayer. Isn't that right? So let's seek the young. 2, engage. And I know we're hearing this a lot, but it's so true. We've got to run for office or help a Christian run for office. We can make a difference. You know, John Jay, who was one of our founding fathers, the first Supreme Court Justice, he said something pretty amazing. He said, Providence, that's with a capital P, so God, right? Providence has given to our people the choice of their ruler, and it is the duty as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers. That is so true. How many of us view that as our duty to vote? It's sad, the number of Christians who don't vote, and we can make that a change. But, to get out and select and prefer Christians, we have to have Christians that run, right? And so I wanted to share just a little bit my story. God can use anyone, and I'm so thankful for that. We just have to be willing. I was grading papers one night as a teacher, and the phone rang. And it was my husband answered, and he's going, and he's turning around looking at me, and then he says, Bill, you're talking to the wrong Hartzler, and hands me the phone. I'm like, what is this? And it was Bill Day, a senior citizen I'd known since I was a little girl. And he said, well, did you know that our state reps are retiring? And I said, yeah, I saw that in the paper. He said, well, some of us were talking about maybe who'd be good to run. We thought of your husband, but he said we should talk to you. We actually thought of you also, but we assumed you wouldn't leave teaching. But what do you think? What do you think my first reaction was? Yes, Bill, you bet. No. I said, no way. I said, politics is dirty business. I don't have anything to do with it. It costs money. We're a farmer and a teacher. And I don't even know how to campaign. And he said, well, would you think about it? Would you pray about it? I would encourage you. Remember that line. Write it down. Write it down. Use it on your friends, not yourself. No. Anyway, he said, would you think about it? Would you pray about it? And when he said that, I had a flashback to when I was 9 years old making mud pies on my front sidewalk. Seriously. Anybody else make a mud pie? You do that in Texas? All right. Good. Okay. Sand pies? Sorry. Anyway, and I had just asked Jesus in my heart and was talking to him and going, God, what do you want me to be when I grow up? I knew I wanted to be a wife and a mother, but was there something else I could do to make a difference for you and others? So I thought of a couple things, and it was like, nah. And then the thought came in my head, you could be a state representative. And I thought, yeah, maybe that's something I can do to make a difference. And I kind of forgot about it. I didn't even tell my mom. Actually, later when I was a state rep, I told her, and she said, what a strange thing for a little girl to think. I don't know, but it worked. Anyway, but I forgot about it. But as I look back on my life, I was always drawn to public policy. If the news was on, I'd be walking through the room, I'd pay attention. If I was in a high school group and an elected official came and spoke, I would be on the edge of my seat just listening to my friends who would be bored to tears. Could hardly wait to go to the state capitol, So actually, when I got married, I shared that with my husband, but we always assumed if God ever called me to do that, I'd be like a senior citizen, and we would have had kids, had been grown and everything. So I had no clue. I'd be only 33 and, right in the middle of teaching and no kids yet and all that. But, we have to be obedient, and I said, okay, we'll pray about it. And so my husband and I sought advice, and at church, the Sunday before filing deadline, God made it clear. We were doing praise and worship, and I was talking to God. I was singing, but I was going, God, show me. I know what people have said, that, yeah, I think we could see you do that, but show me. And something pretty special happened. The words on the screen came up, and they got bold, and they jumped out at me. And it was the song, I'll Rejoice in the Lord. And it said, I'll rejoice in the Lord, I'll extol his love more than wine. Draw me unto you, and let us run together. I knew. Said, show me. Okay. But it was so sweet. God is so good. Said, just draw me unto you, and we'll run together. God doesn't call us to do anything where he's not right there with us. And he will help us. He will enable us. And the words from Isaiah came back. Who will go for me? Who will I send? I said, send me. So we ran against all odds. I was of the opposite political party of my area, but we won. And we had the privilege of serving 6 years in the Missouri House. Then God blessed us with a baby girl, and I got to be a mom, so I chose not to run for re-election, to be a full-time mom. And I did that, and 9 years later, and there were some pictures. Did you show the pictures? Anyway, I'm going to show my picture of my daughter. Yes. No, anyway. Anyway, 9 years later, I got the call and asked to run for Congress against a 34-year incumbent, chairman of the Armed Services Committee, with almost 2 years $2 million. But he was a supporter of Nancy Pelosi. And we are not Nancy Pelosi in our district. Anyway, I'll move on. But I felt God say, I need you off the bench. I need you to run. And obedience is better than sacrifice. So we ran. And with God's mercy and help, we won. And served 12 years in Congress. So I wrote a book called Running God's Way, and there's going to be a book signing this summer. And anyway, get it, if not for yourself, for another friend. Hand it to him. Say, hey, I think you'd be great running for school board. Here you go. Here's a book that can help you. So anyway, number 3, show up. I love that prayer from the pastor last night, but it's time for us to show up, stand up, and speak up. It makes a difference, right? It really does. And I'm so encouraged after COVID how many parents have gotten involved, right? Going to their school boards and saying, no, not in my school, you're not teaching my kid that. Number 4, take back our schools. And I just want to elaborate on that. We need to support our Christian schools, support school choice, homeschool. But I would throw out there, too, we need you to follow the calling and become a public school teacher. It's a mission field. Those kids need you. They need to see a Christian example of one adult, at least, in their school, who they know prays, who is married and loves their husband or wife, who goes to church on Sunday. So pray about that. 5, support values-based education. Entertainment. Money talks. And we've had success here lately, and let's keep it going. We've seen big corporations like Target, Lowe's, John Deere, Harley Davidson over the last year back down, and we have power with our money, so let's exercise it. 6, vote. We are weeks away from determining who the leaders of our community, our state, and our nation will be for our children. Are they ones who are going to uphold godly values? Support those things? Or are they ones that are going to support policies that hurt our kids? There's a lot at stake. And let's not squander that opportunity. As was said earlier now, Speaker Johnson appointed me to the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. And I've always felt passionate about our Christian brothers and sisters around the world who are being persecuted, but it just has driven home even more how the majority of Christian brothers and sisters around the world would love to have the privilege of voting for their leaders. They would walk miles to do that. And so let's get out there ourselves and vote. And lastly, but not lastly, we need to pray. Pray for our nation and pray for our kids. I have a picture, I believe, of another quote of Abraham Lincoln. And it was on a pillow. I think it's the next slide. There we go. I made this for my mother once. I thought it was powerful. Abraham Lincoln said, I remember my mother's prayers. They have always followed me. They have clung to me all of my life. My mother was a prayer warrior. And Mark Batterson, in his book, Draw the Circle, said something I'm still processing, but he said, prayers have no expiration date. So we can pray, and it'll impact generations. And one of the founders of our nation in 1607, Robert Hurt, said something profound I wanted to share with you. He said, we do hereby dedicate this land and ourselves to reach the people within these shores with the gospel of Jesus Christ and to raise up godly generations after us. And with these generations, take the kingdom of God to the earth. This was his prayer in 1607. May this covenant of dedication remain to all generations as long as this earth remains. And may this land, along with England, be evangelist to the world. That was his dedication. That was his prayer for America, and that should be our prayer. Others have gone before us and established this nation, the greatest nation in the world. We have enjoyed the freedoms on the backs of the sacrifices of others. Now it is our time to take up the mantle and protect and defend our godly values, protect our children, and take back our land. And yes, we are in a battle, but let us remember the words of Nehemiah this morning. When they were facing opposition, he said, don't be afraid of them. remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. Amen. God bless.
Wow. I think Vicky's message from this last conference was one of my favorites because she hit to the real root is we have to prioritize the next generation. If we're not multiplying ourselves, if we're not discipling others, if everything's going to die with us, what do we have? And we really are at a cultural impact, folks. We have to push back against the cultural lies, as Ben Quine said a few weeks ago, with truth. And Vicky lays that out. How people take over our young people and stir them up and create lies that then propagate into a lifestyle that they begin to live and live out for decades, and how it affects our culture. If we don't capture the heart of the youth, what do we have? Thank you, Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, for that incredible message. And join us in Dallas-Fort Worth, August 8 and 9, as we re-record our on-ramp to civic engagement, our beginning class to teach every Christian in this country how to engage in prayer, voting, and engagement, how to engage with political parties, advocacy, issues from a biblical perspective, religious liberty, how to share the gospel. We are including all of it in this class. And Vicky will be our elected official that we interview on the importance of prayer, voting, and engagement from her perspective and how she wants to inspire the next generation of leaders. So join us, register at our website, christiansengage.org. We'd love to see you there. I want you flying in from around the country. Literally, guys, the ticket's $15 because we want to fill up the whole auditorium. So register today, fly in, grab a hotel, and join us for this incredible weekend in Dallas-Fort Worth in the fall. We'll see you there. Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible program today. We are so happy to be in your life. Have you shared this? Have you subscribed? Have you reviewed our podcast? Please share this with other people and help us get the word out that Christians are getting empowered around this nation. Step 1 to join Christians Engage is take our pledge to pray, vote, and engage on our website at christiansengage.org. Every week, we'll teach you how to pray for government. We will send voting reminders around every election, and we'll help you engage more for America. Step 2, take one of our classes. Have you taken our on-ramp to civic engagement or biblical worldview or the leadership of Nehemiah or biblical conduct? We have so many classes, including a full campaign school that you can plug into right now on our classes page. Step 3, hey, it's time to get involved in campaigns, advocacy, registering more Christian voters, activating your church. Every Christian needs to get off the sidelines and make a difference. We are here to mentor you into your place of leadership. That's what we do every day at Christians Engage. So reach out to us for help in any of those areas. And lastly, everybody listening to me right now can help fund a movement of millions of Christians that will pray, vote, and engage ongoing. We're supported by people just like you that every month or every year invest in this ministry, their hard-earned dollars, their treasure, their heart. We thank you so much. Please be a part and give at christiansengage.org. Thank you so much to our partners at The Stream. Thanks for sharing this podcast every week. We so appreciate you. Also, Edify app with Christian Post. Thank you for having us part of your podcast ministries. Christians Engage is a ministry of Family Policy Alliance Foundation, and together around the country, we are mobilizing Christians to pray, vote, and engage. We love you. We'll see you back next week.